All right, it is 3 o'clock. Let's go ahead and come to order. This is the September 27th meeting of the Urban Design Commission. Paula, can you call roll for us, please?
Matt Guillory.
Here.
Jorge Charnico.
Here.
Dylan Bradway. Betsy Brunstetter. Donna Cervantes. Tyler Holmes.
Here.
Lee Peoples.
Here.
Ben Sellers. And James Barnum. You have a quorum.
Thank you. In your package, you had the minutes for the August 23rd meeting. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We have a relatively light docket today. We have no cases withdrawn, no continuance requests. We have one case on the consent docket. And, Michael, I might have a question or two about that one. Can we look at that one real quickly?
You have to pull it off the
Yeah.
consent
Can we pull it from consent?
You have to have a motion to do that.
Can I have a motion?
You don't need a motion, you can just
Okay.
declare it full.
This is one that we've approved before, and there's some fairly significant changes. Can you kind of walk us through the changes real quickly?
Well, essentially, the changes boil down to two big ideas. One is the building is getting a lot deeper, about 37 feet deeper. So that's enlarging the square footage, and that's one of the reasons it's before you today, because the change is more than 20% of the original square footage of the project. So that's the most significant change. All the materials that were approved before are the same materials that are being proposed now, so there's no change to the exterior appearance of the building other than it getting a little bit deeper on the lot and going further back on the lot to the south. The other significant change is that previous approval had a drive cut off of Northwest 16th that led supposedly the potential for vehicles to access the west side of the building and to get to the rear of the property. The second change involved in what you're seeing today is that driveway is being removed, as well as the motorized gate that was proposed to or approved to control access down that alleyway. And in its place, the driveway that would have been there is being replaced with grass landscaping, and the motorized gate that was along the west property line is now being replaced with a solid fence that meets the design guidelines for the urban design district.
The facade, the street facade is exactly the same.
My question was about that west side. I know that was supposed to be a driveway. What is that going to be? That's going to be seating area now? Or?
Site plan calls that out as outdoor dining. One other thing that was changed on the west facade is there were some metal panels proposed, 3 metal panels towards the front of the west elevation that were proposed to accommodate changeable pieces of artwork. That's being removed as well on the west elevation.
And on that west elevation, is there a particular reason for a lack of windows on the ground level?
I'd have to talk to the applicant.
Okay.
And see. Actually, the applicant's not present, but the architect is on the dais.
I'm going to recuse myself on this one. So.
Okay, I was just curious about mostly the west elevation and the 3 windows at the second floor, but not on the ground floor. Is that something you can speak to?
Yes, I can talk on that. All right. Tyler Holmes, 1218 Northwest 21st. I was the designer for this project, not the architect. Basically, the west elevation for that, as of now, we've put in a double door, I believe, and the idea is to have a dining area out there for a tenant. I know Jeff still is negotiating with the tenant for the building, but it seems like that's the push they want to go. When it comes to putting a storefront on that side, Jeff, as is, did not, he was not, he decided not to go with that idea for now, but part of that could be dependent on the tenant as well, but I can't specifically speak on that because I'm not exactly sure, so.
Okay. I was just curious about that. Is there any other questions or comments from the panel? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you. We have one item for an individual consideration down in Capitol Hill, 227 Southwest 25th Street. Michael?
Yes, this item is an item that was continued from the meeting in August at the request of the applicant. They're back before you now. Nothing's changed from what was presented in the packet to you at the August meeting. We've analyzed the proposed renovation of the south elevation facing Southwest 25th Street. And we found that the project is in compliance with all the applicable development regulations and design guidelines, with the exception of the sign regulations, and that pertains primarily to the existing marquee signs that are on the building. We've done some research and found no previous approvals for those signs, and so as part of the renovation, we're going to make those legal by proposing to the commission that the variance be granted to allow the renovation of those signs. We feel that they are integral to the look of the building, of that facade facing 25th Street, and that it would be important to keep those in place and have them operational. And therefore, we've recommended to the commission that a variance be approved for those signs. That completes our presentation. We're prepared to respond to any questions the commission may have.
Thank you. I appreciate the Historical Society pictures in the packet, especially since they're trying to restore this. That was helpful. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak to this case? Please. If you could state just sign in and then state your name and address, please.
Sure. Jill Delosier, 1441 Northwest 42nd Street. And I am with Downtown Oklahoma City Partnership, and I just wanted to mention that in conjunction with the renovation at Yale Theater, Oklahoma City has been nominated and is a finalist for a grant through the National Preservation Historic Trust. And so you can vote up to 5 times a day on voteyourmainstreet.org for Yale Theater to win this grant, and that voting is going on through the end of October. We have a poster for you guys.
That's great.
I can send everybody, I can send the committee a link.
How big's the grant?
$150,000.
That would be a very nice help in this process. I was familiar with the building, but I took a drive past it before the meeting today, and it's got a long way to go to get back to where it once was. Any questions from the panel? Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to speak to this?
I do have a question on the Y signs that are lining the front of the marquee. I just had a question, design-wise, why they were so different than the typography on the side. There's like 13 Ys going down the front of the marquee that are a new addition, it looks like. But they vary from the typography and the style of the other lettering.
I'm not sure I'm following the question. Are you talking about the font of the Y?
The font of the newly proposed Ys that are going down the front of the marquee
Okay,
seem to be completely different than,
yeah.
it just seemed to stick out to me. Maybe I'm just being picky, but.
Oh, as opposed to the Y in this sign here?
Yes.
Okay.
I was just questioning why the Ys were so different.
That is a very nice detailed pickup. I did not notice that. Can anyone speak to that?
Yeah, I'm Byron Morris. I'm with Prime Architects in Norman, the designer on this project, and that is a very good pickup. The image, the owner came across an image of that motif, that Y that he saw, and he wanted it applied across the front because it is the Yale Theater, just trying to emphasize that a little bit more.
Okay. It just seemed a little bit out of place, but now, I mean, with the style of the, like, Art Deco signage and repetitive patterns like that, I see where you're coming from with that design element. So.
Anything else? Any other questions?
And in the motion, you would need to capture the condition for the variance, then we need a separate motion to recommend the variance.
Okay, I'll take a run at it.
Please.
I would like to approve the motion to the application on the basis that the project meets the regulations and guidelines of the Urban Design Overlay District zoning ordinance as referenced in Section C and D of the staff report, with the conditions that the applicant shall obtain approval of a variance from the Board of Adjustment from the maximum display surface area provisions of the sign regulations of the Urban Design Overlay District.
All right, let's have a second on that first motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the first motion passes, and let's take a shot at the second motion, which is a recommendation to the Board of Adjustment.
I would like to recommend that we provide a recommendation of approval to the Board of Adjustment for a variance from the maximum display surface area provisions of the sign regulations of the Urban Design Overlay District.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, both motions pass. Thank you. All right, those are the only two cases for consideration this month. We now move on to other business, which brings up the 2018 meeting schedule. Y'all had a copy of that in the packets. Do we need to approve this, or?
You need to adopt it, yes.
Okay.
And so it's the same schedule, except there were some changes for the November and December meetings because of the holidays.
Okay, and the changes are strictly to get further away from the holidays, right?
Yeah, moved it up a week.
Do I have a motion to adopt this?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, this will be our 2018 calendar. Next, we have a presentation on the newly proposed Lincoln Boulevard overlay.
Yes, this is a proposal. Our presentation today is going to provide you with an overview of the proposed ordinance amendment, including a review of the concept of overlay districts, a look at proposed overlay district boundary, the purpose behind the proposal of this overlay district, and a review covering the major points of the proposed development regulations and design guidelines. At the end of the presentation, there will be time available for questions and discussion. We'll review the project timeline. The city already has a variety of overlay districts within the zoning code, and as this commission is familiar with, the urban design overlay district, along with the others such as HP, the BBDs, the Stockyards District, the Bricktown District. These urban design districts include all of those, and then there's the urban design district, which includes Paseo Plaza District, Cottage District, Capitol Hill, Asian District, and Northwest 23rd Street corridor. The Lincoln Boulevard corridor overlay is proposed as a new urban design district that would be subject to review by the Urban Design Commission, similar to development Northwest 23rd Street corridor, Capitol Hill, and the Plaza District. The proposed boundary is generally defined by the Northeast 30th Street on the south end and by Central Park Drive on the north near Interstate 44. The boundary is focused primarily on including all the parcels that front on North Lincoln Boulevard. For the depth of the district is determined by primarily the depth of the existing C3 zoning along the west side of the street and the depth of parcels that front on the east side of the street. The boundary was also adjusted to exclude all existing PUD and SPUD designations, all adjacent R1 zoning that's developed, and is specifically crafted so as not to split buildings or parcels. A legal description will be prepared once the proposed boundary has been agreed upon, but this is the base draft boundary going forward from this point. Catalyst for proposal is, for this ordinance amendment, was the state. As a major landowner of properties within the Lincoln Boulevard corridor and with the potential new development and or land sales in coming years, the state was concerned about having design protections in place that would ensure high-quality design within the corridor. City staff collaborated with the state to develop a work plan for this effort, and the objective behind this effort is laid out for you here and consists of promoting an appropriate mix of uses that are comparable with the capital, creating a vibrant urban corridor, implementing design guidelines appropriate to the area, integration of pedestrian-friendly access, ensuring high-quality aesthetics in development of projects within the corridor, and enhancing existing neighborhoods by encouraging reinvestment in infill sites. The proposed ordinance amendment would accomplish the following: add Lincoln Boulevard corridor as an urban design overlay district, establish new development regulations and design guidelines tailored specifically for the corridor, modify uses that are presently allowed in the existing base zoning districts, and adopt development standards that are recognize existing conditions in order to minimize non-conforming structures. New regulations will be established for setbacks, signage, screening, land use, building height, parking, fencing, and sidewalks. New design guidelines would be established or adopted for development pattern, building design, relationship to surrounding development, pedestrian circulation and amenities, building materials, parking lots, parking structures, fences, and demolition. Many of the existing uses allowed in the current base zoning districts, such as the ones displayed here, would continue to be allowed. And we're talking about primarily most of the existing zoning is either I-2, and that's predominantly in the southwestern quadrant along the west side of Lincoln from 36th down to 30th, and most of the rest of it is all C3. And so a lot of the uses you see here would continue to be allowed. However, there are a number of uses that are currently allowed within the existing base zoning districts that are believed to be incompatible with the image the city would like to project on a major arterial corridor leading to the state capitol. The uses listed on this slide are examples of some of the uses that would likely be eliminated within the corridor. To our knowledge, none of these uses exist within the proposed overlay district as of this date, and therefore no new nonconforming uses would be created by this change. Development regulations will be established to address the following items: minimum building height, maximum building height, front yard setbacks, side yard setbacks, rear yard setbacks, sidewalks, signs, parking lots, service areas and utility screening, and fences. This table highlights some of the major development standards that would be implemented in conjunction with this design review overlay district. As you can see, the current maximum height in the I-2 and the C3 is 6 stories. This overlay district would allow an increase in height of up to 8 stories or 100 feet maximum. And the footnote there indicates that for properties that are within 35 feet of R1 zoning, the height, maximum height would be graduated down to a lower level, much like it is in the DBD and some other districts that we have right now. The second row there talks about a minimum building height, neither of which currently exists in the I-2 or C3 zoning. And the reason we're proposing to have a minimum building height is because of the existing roadway, the existing infrastructure. We want to take advantage of all the utilities and everything that are there, and we feel that it's inappropriate to allow one-story structures when we can have more multi-story and more density along this corridor. There are some exemptions to that minimum building height for certain uses that don't typically go 2 stories, such as fast food restaurants, gas stations, and a variety of others. The side setbacks are pretty much unchanged, although there is a potential for a 10-foot side setback depending on the abutting use. And the rear setbacks would not be changed at all from the current regulations. What I'm going to do here, the next few slides, I'm going to highlight a few of the major development regulations. This is by no means all of them. I wanted to hit on some of the high points that we're trying to accomplish with this design overlay district. One of the principal new development regulations deals with parking and making sure that parking lots are located exclusively to the side or the rear of new developments and existing buildings. So landscaping would be encouraged in the front of buildings rather than parking. And as you can see in this picture, you do have, this is an example of probably, I don't know, less than 10 properties that have parking in the front of the buildings along facing Lincoln. So this would probably be converted to a legal non-conforming use, and then when it would be changed over, it would be required to comply with these regulations regarding the parking lots. This slide, I'm going to be honest with you, I need to work on a little bit. The primary item that we're highlighting in the left column is just the types of signs that are being prohibited. An example of one of those signs would be the one in the lower right corner, which is the pole sign. The other 2 photos are slides, pictures of signs that we'd like to try and encourage in terms of aesthetics and height and bulk and mass, in terms of how they sit along the street and what they look like in terms of not being overbearing and being still providing the necessary identification for the businesses along the corridor. This, again, is a similar situation. We have what we're talking about in the left column is the types of materials that would be prohibited. And what we're looking at on the right are photos giving you examples of the types of fences we'd like to be able to encourage for the design guidelines or the development regulations in this overlay district. So that kind of finishes off the discussion of the development standards. And we're going to transition into design guidelines. The new design guidelines would be established for a variety of design considerations. The new design guidelines would be geared toward promoting improved design aesthetics and improvements in how buildings relate to the street and focus on convenient pedestrian access between uses along the corridor. This slide talks about proposed design guideline for development pattern and would focus on having buildings more directly oriented toward the street with less emphasis on a suburban development pattern that is dominated by parking lots in the front of the buildings. New building design guidelines would encourage designs that are geared more towards encouraging active pedestrian environment with attractive streetscapes that are not focused on the automobile. New pedestrian circulation guidelines will be focused on creating pedestrian-friendly environment. And you can see here, the photo here on the right is a sample of the existing streetscape we have on the southern part of the corridor. It's already been developed and put in place, and we believe we have adequate right-of-way all the way up the corridor within the design overlay district to continue this type of treatment for the full corridor. Parking and vehicular access guidelines would be focused on encouraging fewer drive accesses on Lincoln Boulevard with more access from the side streets when available. Existing demolition guidelines that we currently use today in the Urban Design Overlay District would be employed whenever requests for demolitions are filed within the corridor. Right now, that protection doesn't exist for this section of Lincoln Boulevard. For design guidelines, we would have additional guidelines for fencing as opposed, in addition to the regulations. Front yard fences would be designed in compliance with new design guidelines that are geared to allow for more creativity than similar guidelines in other districts. New guidelines for building materials would be established to ensure higher quality materials and enhance detailing and distinction between materials. And guidelines would be adopted to minimize detrimental impacts of service areas on surrounding properties and to encourage the inclusion of outdoor amenities in projects. So that kind of concludes the overview of what we hope to accomplish with the establishment of this new overlay district. Of course, it would be more cases for us to review here at the Urban Design Commission. We don't know what the potential for development along that corridor is right now, but the state seems to think that there are a lot of pending developments out there waiting to come through the doors. So we hope to take this to the Planning Commission later this fall. And today's presentation is just kind of an introduction to the Commission to the concept of having an overlay district out there. We will bring it back to you for a recommendation to the Planning Commission at a later date when we're a little further along in the process. And then once it goes to the Planning Commission, it would go to them for recommendation to the City Council, and we hope to have that accomplished by sometime in the early part of 2018. So with that, our presentation to you today is completed. We're prepared to respond to any questions you might have.
Thank you, Michael. What do you need from us at this point? Is this when we kind of have a general discussion of the concept or specific questions about line items, or where are we at this point?
Well, when we bring it back to you, you're going to see a draft copy of the actual text of the ordinance. And right now, I think it's right around 25 to 28 pages long. So that's an opportunity where you'll have the chance to look at specific provisions of the ordinance.
We included it in the packet.
Oh, I'm sorry. We did put it in this packet. That's correct. And so, yeah, I mean, if there's anything in the overview you presented, or if you've had a chance to read the draft ordinance and you had any questions about any of the proposed regulations or proposed guidelines that we have put in there, you can bring them to our attention today, and we can go back and look at things if you have certain concerns about the way we've structured anything. And of course, there's multiple opportunities for you to contact us directly and talk about any concerns you might have on the phone between now and the time we bring it back to you for full hearing.
It will be several months before it comes to you. When it comes to you, we hope it's for action that you can recommend approval. So to Michael's point, between now and the next several months, if you could read through, if something catches your attention as being unclear or not being appropriate, definitely funnel it back through Michael so we can so that everyone is good with it at the time we come for recommendation.
As a general, I mean, I read through this last night, and as a general matter, it's, you know, I think it's going to go a long way towards helping whatever development does happen along that corridor be purposeful. Are there comments or questions or specific items from the presentation that anybody would like to discuss?
Well, one comment that I would make, or a question, and this doesn't have page numbers on it, but I'm looking at the draft ordinance. It's under the design guidelines, the development pattern. It's toward the back. And I think it's 13700.7C. And there's some language that is in some other areas that we review about development pattern, development occurring adjacent to stable neighborhoods needs to have a transition that respects the scale, character, and architectural detailing. That has been problematic in other cases that have been before the commission, especially the word character, and people have tried to define character in various different ways. And I've talked with staff before about maybe for particular areas, the people that live there can define the character ahead of time, or maybe there's a way to give some more substance to that term, but I just know that it's been problematic for us in the past. It's been the subject of a lot of debate, and so if there's a way to add anything to that, that might be helpful.
And Lee, that jumped out to me too. That's page 6. I numbered mine because it's page 16. The one right below that also has the word character again, and it stands out because it's been an issue before. It says to promote architectural diversity while encouraging design that relates and reinforces the overall character. So I could see some arguments happening about diversity versus character there.
Well, there are some existing areas out there along Lincoln that may have character we don't want to emulate, so.
Yeah. And it's the issue that, you know, year in and year out we get back into is how is character defined, and it's what people always come back to when they disagree with one of our decisions. So
We could certainly take a look at those two sections and try and rework them so there's a lot more clarity and hopefully less difficulty for the commission.
And I just want to add, I like that we have some discretion, and these provisions give us some discretion, but, as the chairman said, we've seen this debates over this term, and similar terms go on and on and on with really nothing to point to. So maybe just some qualifying understanding or ideas of what it is to give a little structure to the discussion, but still give us some discretion. That might be nice.
yeah, that's the hard balance to find. Trying to predefine what some of the character traits that we're trying to preserve or emulate is helpful, but we don't want to take away all the discretion. I have a question I can talk to you about offline, Michael. When I was reading it, the fence section on page 22, and I know they're not numbered, and in the fence section on page 15, specifically the front yard fences, seems like it might be in conflict, but I read this really quickly. So,
Well, we'll take a look at that as well.
anything else?
I want to give a shout out to Jorge. He was at several of our stakeholder meetings over the past many months, so that he could, I don't remember if we told you had to come, but I appreciate you coming and to help give, just some overall input on behalf of UDC.
Thank you for representing us. Is there anyone in the gallery that would like to comment on this or ask questions? Okay. We don't need any action from us
No
at this
actions,
point,
no
right?
motions.
Okay.
Right.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Next is the administrative approval report, which is quite lengthy this week.
Yeah, as you can see, we've been busy over the last month. In fact, I think we have cases in all 4 of the districts that the commission oversees, with the exception of the Cottage District. So that's, that might be a first, I think. I'm not sure. But anyway, we have some, the first one was a variety of changes to the project at Dewey and Northwest 28th that were, I guess, prospective tenant-driven, and we've gone ahead and approved that. The second one is kind of a revisit of a case that recently came before the commission where they had, I think, shown on their plans, or actually we asked them to remove the proposed street parking because they had not had it approved yet by the Traffic Commission and the City Council. That since has been changed. The Council did approve the on-street parking, so the new site plan shows some perpendicular stalls on the south side of Northwest 27th Street. Third one is, again, another tweak on a case that recently came before the commission with respect to a patio enclosure in the public right-of-way on Northwest 23rd Street. We also had a bench added to a use, also on Northwest 23rd. Then we had a variety of mostly site plan changes to an existing building on the south side of 23rd across from the Rise. There is a sign included there as well as an eyebrow awning on the north elevation being added to that. It's formerly the pawn shop white building across from the Rise. And then had some revisions to the building at 912 Northwest 23rd. That's item number 6. They removed some signs. They put some new signs up. There's still an outstanding item on that, which is a mural that's been painted that has not yet received the appropriate approval, so that'll be back before you at some point in the future. At number 7, 1525 Northwest 23rd, that was a proposal to remove an existing sign and replace it with new signage. That's a Family Dollar store, I believe. And then the last one, item 8, is a new cabinet sign on a pole. This is down in Capitol Hill on basically 29th and Robinson. So that completes the report on the administrative cases.
Thank you. It's been a busy month, it seems. All right, moving on, comments from Planning Department staff? Comments from commission members? All right, with that, our next meeting is October 25th. Thank you.
Do we have cases?
We might not be having any. Yesterday was the deadline, and we didn't have any cases submitted, so.
So there will be no meeting?
Could be canceled, yes.
Potentially no meeting on October
Potentially.
25th. Okay. Thank you.